And welcome back. Now here's something we're sure you've seen. Just last week it topped all the headlines. Caitlyn Jenner honored for coming out as transgender, a moment that only underscored the debate over whether transgender citizens need more protections. Caitlyn Jenner, of course, once Bruce Jenner, the Olympic champion who graced many sports magazines and even the Wheaties box for a lot of us as we were growing up. And this change now only symbolizing how little we know about the world of transgender. And to help us out with that is our next guest, Juli Owens from the Long Island Transgender Advocacy Coalition, or LITAC, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Juli, first off, your thoughts on the honors for Caitlyn Jenner and the public reaction to it, which was mixed.
Well, I believe that it really brings out the whole topic of the transgender community. I believe that Caitlyn's coming out will make the general population more aware of our issues and more aware of the fact that we could be your neighbor, we could be your uncle, your aunt, anyone.
It's certainly true. The media has given more coverage. I've been in this business 30 years. I've never interviewed a transgender person until this day. And I know you've been advocating for greater protections for transgender citizens in Nassau County, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But first, tell us more about your story. You were born as a man, right?
Well, biologically, I was born as a man. And I was very lucky because of the fact that I was able to share the white male educated benefits that go along with it. But inside of me, I knew something was different. I was born during a period of time when there was no internet, and there was certainly not a lot of discussion about transgender people.
So you didn't even know if there were other people like yourself?
Well, actually, to be perfectly honest with you, I went through a major portion of my life thinking that God had made a mistake. The reality was, as I got older, I found out there were other people like me.
And now you identify as a woman?
I identify as a trans woman.
A trans woman.
That is exactly right.
There's so many terms here. People are confused by all of them. I mean, what is the transgender person? What's the definition of that?
Well, the transgender person is someone who has a gender identity which is different than the gender that they're given at birth. So, for example, the doctor has a baby and will look at its plumbing and decide whether it's a boy or a girl, and we go from there. Now, in some cases, the intersex community, it's a little bit more involved to decide whether it's a boy or a girl.
It can cover a lot of people, transsexuals, transvestites, cross-dressers. I mean, is that accurate?
That is correct. The term transgender is an umbrella term which covers anyone who is basically gender variant.
Well, now, let's talk about you. You mentioned the plumbing. When I told folks you were coming on the show, this first question every person asked me, they wanted to know, have you physically become a woman? Have you had surgery or taken the hormones?
No, as of right this minute, I have not had surgery and not taken hormones. And the reason for that is that in both cases, those have health risks, as well as the fact that in order to take care of my family, I had to work as a male.
Your family? You're married?
That is correct.
With children?
I have a daughter.
Now, when you got married, were you already transgender? Did that evolve? And you're married to a woman?
Well, first of all, I've always been transgender. You don't become transgender. You are transgender.
There you go. There's the ignorance of folks who don't know.
So that's the first thing. My first wife knew about my transgenderism at 20 years old. And we married at 30. We had a daughter at 35. My second wife met me as Juli and has been a wonderfully supportive woman. You know, there's a lot of love in our home.
You've had a career, or
That is correct.
What was your career?
I have an engineering degree and a management, business management MBA.
Well, let's get to the issue that you're really passionate about. Transgender citizens are specifically protected in a number of states, a number of cities, including Suffolk County, but not Nassau County. Why is that?
The problem is that the law in Nassau County does not include a simple definition of gender. When you take a look at the law, it's got something like maybe between a dozen to 20 different definitions, including marital status, religious organization, the actual legislature, and so forth. They define all those terms. As far as gender goes, they did not put anything in gender. And in order to have that bill cover us, we need the term gender identity and gender expression.
Well, I talked to a spokesperson for the majority leader, the Republican majority leader, Norma Gonzalez, invited them onto the show. They declined. And they said that there's no need for this, that it's already covered under sexual orientation protections in the statutes.
Well, it's very nice that they determined that everything's fine. What's interesting is the New York Civil Liberties Union, the Empire State Pride Agenda, as well as, let's see, I'm missing one other person.
Well,
but anyway,
you got plenty of them there.
Oh, I know, HRC. all believe that the law does not cover transgender people.
Well, now critics, and there are some in the legislature, particularly conservatives, say this is just going to lead to mass confusion in schools. It'll even come down to, you know, which bathroom would someone use?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because the Department of Education just put out a set of guidelines for New York schools that require schools to allow students to use the bathroom that's consistent with their gender identity.
So what's next in your battle to try and gain these rights in Nassau County?
Well, we're going to continue to work in Nassau County with elections coming up. We're going to be quite effective, I believe.
Well, Julie Owens from the Long Island Transgender Advocacy Coalition, I certainly learned a lot about transgender today. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us about this.